And good morning, everybody. It is Fabulous Friday featuring Amanda Dodd. Now, Amanda, I met you in Michigan at the Michigan Hypnosis Conference there, and you are amazing. I was absolutely blown away by your presentation. And what I love about you and what everybody will see when they're watching you is that you give everybody a real sense of peace, grounding. When I'm with you, when I'm in your presence, I go, ah. That is just really lovely. So, do you know, Amanda, please take it away. Tell us about you. Tell us about your journey. Take it away, please.
My journey started off fairly weird. I had a lot of unidentified trauma at one point. That was an ADD label, which never quite fit because I was never hyperactive. What I was highly distracted and dialed into other means of communication, meaning empathic. I could sense things spiritually. And so it's hilarious now when people come to me and they have that experience in my presence because that was not my beginning. I had to earn those skills. And
Right.
now, because I've honed those skills, they just naturally come through in everything that I do. So it's just a grace, if you will. But I started off being very dialed in into other realms and not fully knowing why or that I was different. Or when I did know I was different, well, then I felt ashamed and I tried to hide it. So I suppressed a natural mediumship ability until my late 20s, until it was no longer suppressible. And
Okay.
from there, I actually got a little bit of courage, worked through all of the doubt and the fear that comes with using these abilities, took some classes with some excellent world renowned trainers, and go on to practice mediumship for some time. It grew quicker than I felt ready for. I scared myself sometimes with the accuracy, and then I realized that I wanted more. I didn't want to become something that people felt addicted to, that they needed, that they had to rely on. And I thought, well, if I have this ability, what's so special about me? I much rather find a way to empower people. And so after some difficult things in life, narcissistic abuse, things like that, I had to overcome trauma. And so I stepped away from mediumship altogether.
Oh,
And in that time, I took some life coach training, which came with a little bit of hypnotherapy, which helped me over the narcissistic abuse.
right.
I have a love of Richard Grannon. Being from the UK, you probably know who that is.
Yeah, wonderful. Good for you.
And he launched me off. So basically, because of his work, I took some of his hypnosis training and realized it worked beautifully for me. And I
Yeah.
said, okay, I'm going to do some life coaching. I'm going to help myself. If I can help other people, bonus. And then I'll take this little bit of hypnotherapy and we'll see how it goes. And you know how it is with hypnotherapy. You get in, you have an experience, your life has changed. Of course, you're going to do more. So I took hypnotherapy and then I thought, oh, there I was practicing with a weight loss person. At that point in my life, I was at my heaviest set, and I had no hope or aspirations or even thought of reducing weight. But through facilitating her session, I reduced weight. And I said, oh, there's something special here. So I went for clinical hypnotherapy. And at that point, I was very trauma focused. I stepped away from the spiritual. And like all things that are meant for us, we always find our way back, don't we?
Yes.
And it
Yes.
became unavoidable. So then within sessions, people's loved ones and spirits would be dropping in, and I would be seeing them, but then it was like, well, I don't do this, so I wouldn't be saying it. Eventually, I would ask, if the client was aware. Sometimes they would be, sometimes they wouldn't. And it's like, okay, well, if they're here, do you have any questions for them? And we would start to explore it. And it would always lead to a huge moment of catharsis.
Mm.
And that became one of the cornerstones of one of the things I practice now, which is helping others step into their mediumship, whether it's developing their skills or having their own experience. And
Right.
it's so much more powerful than me having a bite of a peach trying to explain the texture, the sweetness, the graininess, versus someone having that bite themselves and having the whole experience. So that's a
Wow.
cornerstone of what I do now.
Love
But
it.
within that, I started clinical and I had zero interest. Can you believe this? I had zero interest in past life regression. And you're laughing because you know
Yeah,
me now and you're thinking
yeah.
that's ridiculous.
But I think I was in your class and you did one, so it's okay.
Yes. So actually, from there, I again had my own experiences. It turns out I'm the poster child of past life regression, resolved fear of public speaking. Here I am now, do a podcast, do
Yes, you got
presentations. You would have never known. Had a
no.
lifelong phobia of snakes. Gone.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
because of past life regression. So, healing beyond trauma for me is about, yes, we're healing the trauma. We're resolving the imprints that are stuck in the mind that keep people up at night, but then we're also moving them forward into the potential of who they want to be and using the skills they've picked up along the way, which lends itself into spirituality.
Yeah, absolutely love it. I love it. And that we spoke yesterday as well, actually, because I was on your podcast. Now, you said that about Reiki as well. You said so that was part of your journey. Tell us how you use that still as well.
I'm always going to say this. Reiki is the gateway. I can't say the word, I guess, because I don't know, social media might not like it, but it is the gateway for sure. When I was still suppressing the mediumship ability, I was aware of it, I was acknowledging it, but I wasn't practicing it. I was also a full-time caregiver for a special needs child. And I found out that I could easily shift into martyrdom and a burnout. And so I sought Reiki, and I had wanted to learn Reiki since I was 16. I'd always been aware of it. It conflicted with my parents' views, and so I didn't get around to doing it until I was about, I'm going to say 28, was when I finally said, that's it. I've always wanted this. I'm doing this. I need this for me. I didn't plan on taking it for clients. But after that, of course, it was a wonderful certification that I took. It was state certified, which was fantastic. And it had a lot of comprehensive training. So I did Usui Mastery. I went on to do Karuna Mastery, and more recently I did Kundalini and Kundalini Mastery.
Okay,
So
wow.
even now, it's still present in my life.
Yeah. And I think once you're attuned, because I use Reiki as well. I mean, sometimes I can just feel I need to have my hands open and pass on the energy. And it's and I send I hold people in England a lot of the time in my hands, and will sort of like imagine them and send them energy. So it's and then of course got the signs, sort of. So it's like we can pass those on. It's a wonderful energy, and until you do it, I think that or have it, it's difficult to explain because it is an energy.
There are a
And
few
we are
things
all
that never get talked about with Reiki, and I want to deepen into it on my podcast more because there are some missed opportunities. But Reiki is a huge empowerment. And so what happens is after people get those first couple of attunements, you see them suddenly starting to be more creative. They're more confident, more courageous. They're a lot more grounded and present. But then also they start really finding their flow in life in a really gentle, beautiful way. They start deepening into personal development, kind of like we talked about yesterday. And I feel like it's a huge launching pad. So many people don't go on to become practitioners, but they just needed that little energetic boost.
Yeah, I agree. You don't need to, because I stayed with my Reiki 1 and Reiki 2. I never went on to do my master because I didn't want to. That wasn't my journey. So that's fine. I was just absolutely okay with where I was. And I love that as well. It's like that was the kind of us knowing where we're meant to be at, and it's enough, So I love that. What do you train? Do you train people at the moment, Amanda? What do you tell me?
I don't currently because I partner with a little shop and they offer training. And so just out of respect, I refrain from doing that so that they can have that sunlight. And I stand into the other realms of Akashic records and meeting loved ones in spirit. So every Thursday I'm there in the Salt Cave and we do group meditation. It's hypnotherapeutic. Everything from past lives to Akashic records, working on the inner child, reducing trauma, calming the nervous system, and it's a throw up of whatever it's going to be that Thursday. That really launched me into better practice as a hypnotist.
I love that, Amanda. I mean, I can actually feel myself melting into my chair listening to your voice.
Sometimes they have to wipe the drool off their face. It's great.
I'm like, I can just, and I remember it when you took us all through a guided meditation. It was just like, oh, this is nice. This is really good.
What happened was I started seeing how many people actively were in a trauma response and they had no idea. And so I started incorporating yogic breath work into every single group and individual session.
Yeah. And breath work is getting a lot of attention right now, and rightly so. There's so many different ways to help a person, and it can take a village. It's not only necessarily just one thing. It can be this and that bit, because there's various places I think in our heads and in our bodies and in our environment and whatever it is where things are trapped. And so it's like it's that bit that can give you the aha moment, but it's down there that something else will happen that will release it. And so it takes a lot of different modalities. And but Amanda, I love that you said that you had got rid of your fear of snakes with the past life. So are you willing, and you may not be, are you willing to share with us what that was for you in your past life?
Oh, how much time do you have? So I never had this lifetime reason to be afraid of snakes. I'd never had a bad experience, but every time I saw them, I would go into a full body freeze, and all of a sudden tears would come down. I felt like a crazy person. This happened early on, like from age 6 or 7. And I couldn't explain to people what was happening to me in those moments, which was really dramatic every single time. And so another thing that was happening that I didn't connect until afterwards was I was having what I call past life regression flashbacks. In the night, right up until 30 something, when I had the QHHT session that released it, I probably about once or twice a month would wake up out of bed, still semi-asleep, start rifling through the bed looking for snakes. My first husband thought I was crazy. The second one is patient and kind and would coax me back into bed and let me know that I was safe. But I had no idea where that came from. And it happened my entire life.
Yeah.
And so I actually didn't do the session with the intent of clearing the phobia. I went as a practice session because I was training for QHHT myself. That's the Dolores Cannon style of past life regression, where we do past lives, clear whatever traumas, and then go to the higher self for really deep guidance.
Right.
And it was profound. I had a wonderful practitioner. And so there we are. And, with past life regression, we're always questioning, is this real? Am I imagining this? And not all hypnotists make great hypnotic clients. It's a learned skill.
It's true.
And I'm having this life, and this life is not a human life. I'm looking down in the sand and I see big furry toes. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And so the whole time I can hear the logic mind saying, what is this? And I'm like, no, this can't be real. And so sure enough, the subconscious mind showed me another past life, human one, dealt with that. That life wraps up, finishes, we go to the next. There are those furry toes in the sand. And it's like, okay, this better be good. And so she worked me through it. And I was actually what is called a Lyran, which is a starseed from Lemuria. It is a lion-type species, and in that life, I was in Egypt. And the reason that is funny is because my whole life, I've always kept ferrets as pets. I've got big, beautiful green eyes. They're a little bit rare. I've always had the phobia of snakes, and I've always loved belly dance. And for a girl born in Montreal, Quebec, that's a little weird.
Right.
And all of those things that we love, those things that we have a huge dislike or distrust for, are present within us. They come from somewhere. And so wouldn't you know, it came from that life in Egypt where I worked as a healer. I had healing abilities, and people would line up and come to the temples, and I would work on the impoverished. I would work on the sick. I would work on the slaves. Turns out you can only empower so many people before higher up forces don't like that, and they get angry at you. My spouse was in that lifetime. He was my guardian. He was a protector. And I'm still waiting to regress him to find out where he was, because he had one job. And he won't let me do it. Yes.
Oh, isn't
And
that
so
interesting?
Yeah, so in that life, I did go to the death scene. I went back to my chamber after a day of healing, and there was a big basket, and it wasn't uncommon to receive gifts and, gratitude for the work that I was doing. It was filled with snakes from my enemies, and I got scared. I knocked it over, and I ran to the bed and hid. It was a 4-poster bed with beautiful draped material, and I remember that because as a little girl, I always wanted one.
Yeah.
And I did. I died in the bed, and the snakes got up in the bed, and I died to the venom.
Wow.
So there were multiple things that were present there. I didn't notice that the past life flashbacks had stopped until about 6 months after the session.
Yeah.
I was in the grass outside the next day. And I was there barefoot, and my spouse is looking at me like, "What are you doing? You're barefoot in the grass." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I look down, I'm like, "Yeah, why?" He's like, "There are snakes out here." I never would have done that before. And I'm thinking, "Oh, I'm good. They'll move. They're not the Egypt kind. I'm fine."
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? Yeah. And I agree. I've helped people, and when you were saying Egypt, one of my past lives, I was a slave in Egypt. I died in Osiris's tomb.
Wow.
And my learning was to protect myself. I think I had somebody said to me, "How do you know how old you are?" And I said, I don't know. I said, I've had one moon. So so to me, that moon meant that I'd had a period, and so I'm thinking I must have been about 13 or 14.
Or maybe even 16. Yeah.
Yeah, because people older, just because of nutrition and things like that. So it's but anyway, it's quite interesting. But that was my learning. So I actually died alive and trapped in one of the pyramids.
So how did that represent in this life for you? Were there things that you loved or had a great dislike of that are connected to it?
So it's I've always been interested in Egyptian stuff, more so when I was younger. Since that, not so anymore.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it?
Well, no, the desire is gone because you've resolved it now at the root.
Yeah. But the learning, so when I do a past life, I take somebody to get some learning from a past life of theirs that they can bring back to their present day that they can use. And it's interesting you're saying about the fear, because that's what I wanted to chat about, because I had a client, she was so scared of cats, especially stripy ones. All her life would literally do what you were saying that you did, literally like that. And I was like thinking, well, and actually I don't mind saying had done 2 sessions, and she still felt like that. So I just said to her, I said, "Are you okay with doing a past life?" And we did. And actually she was in India, and she'd been attacked and mauled and killed by a tiger. And the learning was, and it literally came out so strong, you're fine. You don't need to be scared of stripy. They're just cats. You're fine. You'd never minded cats. And it was like he was speaking, because she was a female, and he was, and when in the past life she was a he. You were never scared of cats. You're fine. And that was it. Done.
The other thing is, it's not just fear. I've helped people with OCD. I had a lady who kept locking and unlocking the door, and she had this compulsion to lock the door 5 to 6 times, especially before bed. Past life. Invaders had come in, and in her death scene, they had harmed her because she failed to lock the door. 1 session, done. No longer needs to compulsively lock the door. It's over.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing, because I don't mind saying OCD is really, can take many sessions, and there's lots of layers to it. So it's that's brilliant. Again, I mean, we can all have so many stories. I had one. She was lovely, but she was very, very big girl, and she couldn't stop eating. So we did a past life, and again, the death scene, she died of starvation. And the learning was, there is enough food in this lifetime. You don't need to eat it all, because that's what she was doing. And she just went, oh gosh, because there was no there was no other emotional reasons that we could think, we kept going, really going through it, sifting through, and it was like, what is it? So past life. Gotta love it.
Our clients always have their own solutions at the root, and it's really just trusting ourselves and trusting them to go and explore it. They find it every time.
Yeah. They do. I couldn't agree more, Amanda. Our clients have all the answers inside of them, and we act as guides. And whether we do that modality, something will come up, and we can help them so that they get that. There you go. I know what it is. I love it. So what's next for you, Amanda? What have you got on the horizon?
Well, I do mediumship training. I've kind of backed off it a little bit, just life stuff got busy, but I'd like to come back to it. And I'd also like to create some coursework around working with loved ones in spirit for the clinically trained hypnotist who maybe isn't as spiritually minded, doesn't know how to offer those, and maybe doesn't have mediumship abilities themselves. And maybe they don't want to develop the abilities, but they would still like that catharsis, that healing that can happen for the client. And so those are kinds of things that are on my bucket list of developing over the next couple of years.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And still I'm doing a lot of clinical work, helping people with PTSD and overcoming trauma. And so similar to you, I love emotional intelligence. It's something I had to teach myself. It's something that comes through every single session.
Yeah.
Want to do more of that. I'd like to really focus and create a base course for every client that comes to me. I know that sounds extreme, but I want to walk them through the basic things that I do for my nervous system every single day, from the breath work to the emotional intelligence, establishing boundaries, because so many of my people are overcoming that narcissistic abuse, their codependence, their caregivers, and they've lost themselves.
Yeah.
And so to teach them how to communicate more effectively as well. I'm a huge fan of nonviolent communication. I bring it into a lot of what I do. So that's another goal. And the final one was, I'm glad that you mentioned breath work. I did recently take a theta breath certification. Theta breath is a circular breath. And, you were talking about the benefits because, yes, as hypnotists and coaches, we work top down. Mm-hmm. When we go into the breath, if they've got a block and they can't get past it top down, then we have to work bottom up. And that is what theta breath offers us the opportunity to do. It allows the body to guide the client to see what is important in a way that's still gentle. They're not going to see anything that they're not prepared to encounter. And so it's just a very intuitive, it's what you could say content-free. I'm developing it now in terms of integrating it with hypnotherapy and coaching. So into a session, and then also group sessions from that too. So I've got a lot of goals. Not enough time.
Hey, you do. We have plenty of time.
So we're going to manifest time.
Yeah. Well, it's. I love that because it'll keep you out of mischief.
I live in Ohio. There's not much to be had here. I'm good.
It's no, that's wonderful, and I think it's important because you're right. People do lose their identity, and it's important for people to keep on realizing that we can, grow. We can reinvent ourselves. It's not that life doesn't need to be, is this it? And that's it. It's like, well, what's next? What else? There's and we can help.
I think a lot of us, and I'm speaking for myself as well, we didn't have identity. That wasn't something that was available in the family dynamic. So for some people, they're having to learn. Some of my clients are 40, 50, 60, some almost 70, and they're just figuring out, they don't know who they are. They don't know what they want. They don't know how to take care of themselves. And I think it's so devastating that they've had to wait so long to start to really know themselves and treasure themselves for who they actually are.
And I agree. However, then once they start, it can be like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because the momentum of everything else, because you like me, we know that it's like there's all that wisdom and all that learning and all that knowledge that they have of what they really don't want. Exactly. And it's like, so now they can be really focused on what they do want and literally launch and go for it. And sometimes it's like, whoa, you're suddenly there really quickly. And it's like, well, yeah, because they've had all this understanding and knowledge that they can draw on. So
It's the most satisfying thing to watch, isn't it? To see someone who's been struggling to just rocket launch. It's so beautiful. Yeah,
it is. No, it really is, and I love it because we get to help people. And the beauty of it is that then when they do, like say, a training with me or a training with you, is that people are always getting their own transformation along the way, because there will always be something that we need to clear so that we can be there fully present for our clients. So I love it. Yeah, I love that, Amanda.
I think that can be a fear for a lot of people, that they're going to come to a hypnotist and have change transposed upon them. That's really not it at all. I have no agenda for anybody.
No, it's what they want. And again, it's and then we can also help them fill the void. Yeah. Because a lot of it, as we say, it's the identity. Who are they without that story then? And that's where we get curious. Well, what else do you actually want? And that then becomes a lot of the emotional intelligence that you and I both do. So it's pretty cool. It's cool stuff, everybody. Thank you for watching. Amanda, you and I could probably talk forever. We already did yesterday.
we always do.
I know we're talking again. So I love this, and I'm so excited that you've been on here today. So thank you. We'll get your links obviously in the notes for everybody. So thank you for watching, everybody, and it's goodbye from me, Claudia Rickard, and it's goodbye from Amanda Dodd. There we go. Thank you, everybody.